Welcome to Heather Sells NYC with your host, Heather M. Cooper. Each episode is focused on helping people navigate through the intricacies of buying and selling real estate in New York City to get the greatest value. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, heathersellsnyc.com. Now here's the host of Heather Sells NYC, Heather M. Cooper.
Good afternoon. Hi, Kael. How are you?
Good, Heather. How are you doing today?
Good. So I'd like to introduce Kael Goodman, who is the founder and CEO of Market Proof, which is a real estate software company, and it really focuses on the market in new development. So thank you so much for coming here this afternoon and joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you.
So, Kael, tell me a little bit about you and your background and how you got started in Market Proof.
Yes. So I used to be in the media business. I had a prior company called Blank Slate, and we owned a bunch of different media properties. And one of them was called Brownstoner, which is really the kind of leading brand when it comes to brownstone Brooklyn. And we sold that in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And following that, we were kind of, what are we going to do next? And in 2019, there was an article in the New York Times written by the real estate reporter Stephanos Chen, with a lot of information that came from Jonathan Miller, who is, the kind of the go-to guy when it comes to real estate data, and from Street Easy. And the article, kind of the title of the article is, 1 in 4 condos in Manhattan unsold. We looked at that data and we really realized that there was a gap in New York City in separating out new developments from resales. In the whole U.S., you have this resale category and then you have new construction. But in New York City, for a whole bunch of reasons, new development was never really a separate asset category. So then COVID came along, and as we all know, in 2020, we had a little free time on our hands. And so we sat down then and kind of figured out how to separate out new development into a separate category. And then Market Proof was born in the beginning of 2021.
Oh, quite interesting.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. And what sort of information does Market Proof provide? And
Yes. Yeah. So, we are professional. Our clients are primarily real estate brokers, developers, investors, banks, insurance, title, legal, all that stuff. Our customers are not really so much, end buyers or sellers. Occasionally one will come through the door, but primarily our customers are professional. And new developments are a different beast than resales. When it comes to resales, you have one seller. They're a person, right, usually, or a group of people. But when it comes to new developments, the seller is a company. It's a company that has built a building that has from a couple of units in it to a couple of hundred units. The biggest buildings in Manhattan have, 800 plus units in them. So it's a very different sort of thing. You're not buying one thing. There's a lot of things for sale in that building. And so keeping track of all that is a very different need than what's involved in resales.
Right. And what aspect of Market Proof do you think developers could not live without?
Yeah. The way that new developments have been sold in New York and really across the U.S. is they put out an availability list. So let's say there's 100 units in the building. On the availability list, they'll put 10 units that are basically kind of representative of the whole.
Right.
Through market proof, you can see the other 90.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can see all of them. In New York, we call that, shadow inventory.
Yeah, for
So for developers, they can see their shadow inventory and everybody else's shadow inventory. And the same thing is true for brokers who are representing the developers or who are representing the buyers. Now you can really get a glimpse into the whole thing and what's happening in a neighborhood or in the market as a whole, and then see a lot of information about the pricing that was much harder to get before market proof was around.
Do you think that it helps brokers
Oh yeah, I mean,
have an advantage
sure.
advising their buyers as to
Yeah.
what
I,
price?
you know, I remember first, we have, our biggest group of customers is brokers. It's, more than 60% of our customers. And a lot of those people, a lot of those brokers represent buyers. And I remember early on when it first started to happen that, a broker could see all of the units as I described. Um, and let's say unit 5C, just making up numbers here, is on the availability list, but their client wants something a little higher, maybe with a little bit better view. Now, because they can see all the other units, they can say, hey, look, my client is actually interested in 10C. Could your client, the sponsor, make that one available to us? And then the answer is typically got to be yes, because everybody wants to make a deal.
Of course.
And we're here to help, make deals easier to get done.
That's really interesting. So essentially, the brokers can see all the pricing is what you're saying.
Yeah, all of the pricing, because that's all, in New York State, there's something called an offering plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the offering plan is like a prospectus for a stock.
Right.
And what it shows is all the units, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, how many square feet, and what the pricing is. Now, that pricing is not necessarily what you'll ultimately buy for,
Right.
but it does give you a kind of starting place for what the expectation is.
That is great.
Mhm.
That is great information. Who knew that? I mean,
Right. A lot of brokers aren't aware that all this, getting offering plans used to be really hard. You wouldn't get it until you were, at the close, had a signed contract, and then you would get your lawyer would get the offering plan. Now, we take the offering plan and we kind of pull all that data. The software grabs all that stuff, and it presents it in a way that makes it really easy to see.
that's such great information. I'm wondering if brokers have made deals because of all of this extra information that they didn't have, and that's really value add.
Well, I hope so.
To
I get emails and messages from brokers all the time saying, thank you so much. I was able to find this unit that I didn't know was out there, and my client is now living in it. So yeah, there's definitely been many, many deals that have been done because of the information we're providing.
No, that's really great. I mean, if there's anything that can make us look good,
Right? Yeah.
not
Yeah.
any additional
Yeah.
software, because sometimes our clients or just buyers in general don't necessarily think that we're so value add. So wherever we can provide value to our client is
Well,
essentially.
yeah. So look, there's different kinds of brokers out there,
Of course.
and our software is not for all of them. A lot of brokers don't deal in new developments or really in condos at all. Some brokers, focus on townhouses or co-ops. There's different focuses. So
Of
the
course.
brokers that are focused on the newer stuff are the ones that gravitate towards market proof.
Right. And is all of this information, does it focus on Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's the 5 boroughs,
Oh, the 5 boroughs. Great.
but most new developments are Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Western Queens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's really, it's amazing. Brooklyn is so much bigger than Manhattan. There's so many more condo developments in Brooklyn. But the ones in Manhattan are much larger. They have more units in them. They're taller. And so Manhattan has more deals, but
Mhm.
Brooklyn has more buildings.
Got it. Got it. That's interesting.
And
Very
Queens is
interesting. I always
growing
thought
also.
that
There's, hmm?
I always thought that Manhattan had more buildings.
Oh, much fewer, much fewer. More, um, there are more units per building, but much fewer.
Mm, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And
And
since the first condo in New York City was the Saint-Tropez in 1966, I believe.
I
Uh,
know that building.
right.
Yep.
And since
Rode in that building.
then, there's been about 19,000 buildings developed. It's about 240,000 units. It's mostly condos. There's been a handful of co-ops. But since then, condos are, almost everything that's been built. And what's kind of amazing about the whole thing is that there's still way more co-ops than condos,
Yeah.
even though so few are built. But in general, the growth of Manhattan is so slow. There's just not a lot of room. So it's growing at less than 0.5% per year.
That's interesting that you see that because I feel like I walk every block
You
and
see
I
construction.
see construction and I see something being built. I live on the Upper East Side and there's like 3 buildings in between like 3 blocks. Is
Yeah,
that being calculated?
yeah. But remember, each one of those is maybe 50 units or less. So
Mhm.
it's a relatively small number um, compared to the hundreds of thousands, of co-op units that were built pre-war. Right, the Manhattan is filled up. There's so little room to go. But what that means is that uh, new development condos is kind of the premium tier.
Mhm.
It's the smallest. It represents like 14% of the market. And then resale condos is the next biggest group. That's in like the 30s.
Right.
And then co-ops are the rest. It's a little bit more than 50%. Townhouses are, very small. They're very expensive, but very small as a percent of the total.
Right. That's quite interesting. And what do investors love about market proof? Does it help them get their deals that they're always looking for?
Our clients that are investors are not single unit investors.
Mm.
They're the people who've invested in the building itself.
Oh, got it.
So
Like the multifamilies or even the
yeah,
larger unit buildings.
yeah, these are institutional investors. Where they're investing in the tens of millions of dollars into these buildings, hundreds of millions in the big ones.
Oh, got it. Are these investors deciding whether they should purchase these units? Is that
Sometimes, well, they're either trying to decide if they should do it or not, or, how's their investment going? Did they make a good investment? Is the pricing of their building correct? What could they do um, to improve the sales, or should they keep the prices up? There's always this equation in these buildings between how many units are selling versus the price. Right? If you lower the price, you might sell a little faster, but then maybe you're making a little less. And so they're always trying to decide this stuff.
so? I guess it really just depends upon, there's obviously a lot of factors.
A
There's
lot
the
of factors. These are big buildings, and like the biggest ones, it's $1 billion or more in total sales. These are, a lot of money is going into these things.
oh yeah. I mean, they're paying architects and yeah.
Right. They got to buy the land. That alone in Manhattan is so expensive.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And what else about market proof would you say that brokers love?
Um, we write market reports. Um, And I write a weekly market report, which
I
lets
love that.
everybody know how things are going, how things are changing, which buildings are selling. You'll gravitate towards the projects where there's more sales happening. So we try and keep everybody in the know about what's happening. And then we do a monthly report, which is just a little different perspective. And then recently we started doing something called the Daily Three, which
What's
is
that?
also for brokers. Now they were kind of getting out of our new development focus and starting to broaden out into some other things. And the Daily Three is it's the top contract from the previous day for co-ops, for resale condos, and for new development condos. And it just highlights, what the unit was, what the asking price was, and who the broker was, who the listing broker was, and in some cases, who the buyer's broker was.
Oh,
And so we send that out to, lots of brokers, sales managers, and a lot of PR people and people who want to know, like, who's winning, you know.
right. Of course. Yeah, in real estate, it's always about
Always that.
who's
Everybody wants to
selling
be
the
there.
highest.
Yeah. And it's amazing to me and extraordinary how the same names are in there so often. The
Oh,
top
really?
brokers in this city do tremendous amount of business
Right.
without naming names.
We have to change that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Maybe I'll be there
Well,
the next.
we'll get you there. We'll help get you there.
And besides the top brokers, we know that AI, everyone is talking about how it's changing the world of real estate.
Yeah.
How do you see it changing in real estate and with market proof?
Yeah. So, the reason AI has been around for a long time. Anyone who's been in software has been using AI probably for years. But what changed is the introduction of generative AI, right? That's ChatGPT, right? You can chat with it. And it really is a huge step forward. Now, we all have learned in the last couple of months that it makes stuff up. It, hallucinates.
Yeah.
And a great metaphor is that it's a bit like playing Battleship. Sometimes it's like spot on,
Yeah.
right? And other times you're in the water. So it
Yeah.
doesn't quite work yet, but it is getting better so fast that, if you're in software, you have to be spending your time really looking at it. And that's what we've been doing. And we have some new stuff that we're working on. We haven't announced anything yet that is all in on generative AI.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
That's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. And, my software developers, I can see they're like, oh my God, like, what happens to software developers? So, these things will change a lot of professions, and it will definitely change the real estate profession in lots of ways that are a little bit hard to predict. But I think, to answer your question in general, the brokers that are winning are the brokers that are using the tools. If, it was Instagram, it's TikTok, and now it's, or whatever, using the CRMs, right? At Compass, where you are, they've invested so much money into their CRM and surfacing stuff. This is all, where AI will really move the ball down the field even more.
Yeah, I definitely think where it's going. I mean, from editing videos, from creating, you put in a picture, then all of a sudden there'll be a picture, a different picture of me that's AI generated. Like
Yeah.
if you just put fun Heather, all of a sudden
Yeah.
it'll be like
Yeah.
Heather disco ball.
Yeah. Kael, 25-year-old Kael,
Yeah.
But like for us, we are starting to do pricing analysis and other things that, just all this, anything that really is pretty manual. The computer can probably do it better than you or I, like now or soon. And I think that's what we're all learning. And so I think for real estate agents that really take advantage of the opportunities, they're going to get way ahead of those who don't.
Right. I think it's just leaning into the uncomfortable with the AI and doing it anyway. Like there's just been so much to learn with technology and with video, but you really have to lean into everything.
Well, I mean, I can share what I do. I put aside time, like especially like on a Friday afternoon or something, just to spend time learning what happened this week. Because in AI, every week new stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a good practice for anyone who wants to stay, on the front of the curve. It's just to put aside a little bit of time to, to learn the latest stuff.
That's true. That is really true. I mean, we certainly want to stay relevant. Especially myself as a real estate agent and you with Market Proof. I mean, buildings and condos and new developments. I mean, they're not going away. Those are always going to be built. But for you, I guess it's how can you make it easier for brokers and developers to find the information to sell their properties quickly and at a high price, right?
Yes, that is all it is. We're all in the business of connecting buyers and sellers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I was just listening to Robert Refkin, our CEO in San Diego, and part of his speech was, about connection. And yes, in real estate, connecting buyers and sellers is always important, but also just connecting.
Yeah, so, I mean, at Compass, Refkin, I remember seeing in the early days where, he was like, look at this thing that we're building, right? And now, you look how far it's gone. And, one of the best tools that Compass has is Compass Collections, which is all about bringing people together into the same space. Now just imagine throwing some AI in there, right?
And we have AI in our CRM. I mean, Robert is always just thinking big is one of the Compass principles. And, we have to stay relevant, and we just have to stay innovative and really stay in the forefront. And I think that's important. And part of what you're doing is really staying in the forefront and helping brokers and developers and investors.
Yeah, so that's where we try to be. Is we're always innovating on new products. So today we've talked a lot about Market Proof's new development focus. That's our product called Market Proof Pro. We also have a product called Market Proof Pipeline. And Market Proof Pipeline is all about construction. Like who's building what, where, like, if you're looking at buying something somewhere, well, what's happening around you? And Market Proof Pipeline is not just condos; it's all residential and commercial development.
It's interesting because like the pipeline can it really predict like the economy? Like, say if you look at that, you can see, the economy is doing really well because there's a lot of building going on.
That's a really good question, Heather. I mean, so like when different things happen, like the interest rates move, or our city or state government does something, I'm not going to say whether good or bad, but mostly bad these days. We can see how that is impacting activity like right away. It just doesn't take that long because we see how many permits are being filed and how many deals are closing. And all of my customers can see that too. And so what ends up happening is I end up getting a lot of emails asking me like, can we have a call? What's going on here? How's this going to affect us? And, with the software and now with, AI kind of coming into the software, all this becomes so visible that these trends, they happen so fast.
Mm. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I
Mhm.
mean, everything is going to be happening so much faster. The information that you're going to receive is going to be faster. The developers, maybe there's going to be a way that you can get an immediate conference call with them,
Right.
or
That being said, the construction is slow, and the construction now is slower than it was 10 years ago.
really, that's
Oh,
so
yeah.
interesting.
Oh, for sure. If you listen to Eric Brody's podcast, he talks about this a lot. He's got a background in construction. I've been on that show. It's amazing. Um, Getting the materials in place, labor shortages. There's so many challenges to, city government rules, getting inspections. Everything's just slow.
Yeah, yeah, that I know. Like when clients sometimes has to get the permits for the
Right.
renovation,
Mhm.
everything is just a little bit time consuming. Let's
Right. So
just
the
say.
information is quick, but the physical world is slow.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Kael, and all of that great information. Please, if you're a broker, if you're an investor, if you're a developer, please certainly feel free to reach out to Kael. His information will be below. Again, his company is called Market Proof. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Heather. All right. Take care. All right. Have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You've been tuning into Heather Sells NYC with your host, Heather M. Cooper. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, heathersellsnyc.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.